So, hello everybody. We're here today at the St. Bernard Chamber of Commerce, and I'm joined with the Ranch Studios with Mr. Sidney Torres and with Jason Waggenspack. Hello.
Hello, hello.
Welcome.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Katie Tommaseo. I'm the Director of Tourism and Film for St. Bernard Parish Government, and I work together with the Ranch Studios on an active basis. We've been very active so far this year in 2021 with over 40 permits, the most we've had since I've been in this position. So congratulations to you both for the success of what you do. So if you don't mind, if you would tell us a little bit about each one of yourselves.
Good morning. And Katie, congratulations to you. It's teamwork that is creating the success we're experiencing here in St. Bernard. I'm a multi-generational St. Bernardian, as you know,
Yes.
and I'm very bullish on St. Bernard. And on my mother's side, they were farmers going back for generations. On my father's side, they were trappers and fishermen. And so we have a lot, and I actually live and work in St. Bernard, and my day job is an attorney here in St. Bernard.
Congratulations. Yes, the Isleños, the first settlers of St. Bernard Parish.
That's
Did I
correct.
get your family?
We
Yes.
trace back to the Los Isleños, and we have a lot of wonderful things here in St. Bernard, and that's part and parcel of why I enjoy my participation in the ranch, is to be able to showcase what we have here in St. Bernard.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm a Louisianian. I'm originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I was brought here by way of the film industry. I fell in love with film when I was living in Baton Rouge and going to LSU, and I actually moved to New York to become an actor for a little while, which didn't necessarily pan out. I fell in love with being behind the camera, and so I wanted to come home and be with my family before I thought I was going to go, hit Hollywood. And I went to UNO, got a film degree. And the film industry came here. It blew up around me. At the time, we were doing really big movies. Deja Vu was one of the big movies at the time that had come right around Katrina. And then right after Katrina, I got on a little bitty movie called The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. And I literally never stopped working from that point on, which brought me to Chalmette, Louisiana, and landed me at the former Lowe's. And then I walked in Sidney's door and kind of knocked on his door and said, "Hey, I want to rent your parking lot, and how is it I can do that?" And he looked at me and said, "Well, how do I keep you here?" And so that's how the story
So that's how it all
began.
got started. And it's grown over the years, hasn't it?
It has. It was very fortuitous. I had been looking out my back window, and I saw a lot of activity next door at what was the former Lowe's, and I owned the properties around the building and what was the former Savor Center. And I said, I wonder what's going on out there. And lo and behold, that same day, Jason comes a knocking on the door and says, we need some more parking. And I said, you've got it. What can I do to keep you here, as Jason said. And the rest is history. But it's really invigorating to me to look out the window and see all of the people working out there. As I left the office this morning, there's tents, there are people moving around. During the filming of Deepwater Horizon, there were 800 people working out there day after day for 9 months. And these are people who come into the parish and who mingle in the parish, who spend money here, restaurants, and other businesses in the parish. And like I said, it's really a pleasure for me just to stand up, or I could actually sit down and look out my office and see this happening.
Yep. It's been a pleasure, actually, being able to build this with Sidney and our partners. They've allowed me to take a vision of building a film studio and put it here in St. Bernard Parish, and it obviously has worked out well. We've been, in business now for 7 years. We've had well over 25 different films, movies, and television series that have come to the property. And just as he said, we've found that the community has given so much back to our clients and to us, and that our clients obviously give right back into the community, and we hear the stories every day about how much is being spent, as Sidney said, at metal manufacturers, at lumber yards, at paint facilities, people, like he said, going to restaurants, staying in St. Bernard in hotels, actually renting property here. It's been really great to see the commerce that comes with the film industry really kind of growing here in St. Bernard Parish.
Yes, and with the Ranch Studios, you also, with the Ford Motor Plan.
Yeah, that gives us room for expansion down the line. The ranch consists of 250,000 square feet under roof on 25 acres. And we've grown into that. We're constantly improving the campus. We actually have one of the largest campuses in the state of Louisiana as we sit here today. And the Ford plant will afford us additional room to grow. We have 225,000 square feet under roof on 27 acres with 800 feet on the Mississippi River and actually rail access. And currently we use the Ford plant for post-production storage. Whenever they film a movie, they want to keep a lot of the props in case they have to come back to do refilming. And so a lot of the props are kept there until they decide that they're finished with the movie. But yeah, we have some plans with the Ford plant, and we can talk about that also.
Yeah, so we've obviously got a pretty big vision. We see content being a massive explosion, as you all probably know. Before COVID even hit, we were all on our iPhones and watching, obviously on our televisions, the new platforms that were arising. And then COVID just completely threw gas on that fire and made it explode into what it is today, where now we have HBO and Warner Brothers doing HBO Max, and we have, Paramount Television popping up. You have Peacock. You have so many things outside the norm of how it was pre-COVID that there has just been an influx of content. And it has shown at our facility in the fact that, my phone rang off the hook. Let me give you an example. Like in 2019, we had approximately 25 calls to the facility that were obviously requests on availability and how it is that, we can find a way to fit them in that time, in that year, in that span. In 2020, I had approximately 30, okay? This year alone, here we are in September, I've had almost 50 calls. So if that tells you, just in the fact that the clients are calling and obviously needing to produce more content, it's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And so as Sidney mentioned, we're looking at what does it look like to expand on our current property? How do we build some stages to provide for our current clients? And then how do we expand into the future? And the future is not just film and television. I think I've been saying this since I got to the ranch with Sidney. The future is anything content driven. It's funny, I was listening to a podcast the other day and they were talking about, do you realize if we have self-automated cars, what are you going to do with that extra 30 minutes of time while the car is driving? You're going to be on your phone or on some device watching content. And so that is going to completely revolutionize how it is that we consume more and more on a daily basis. And so the vision of the Ford plant, getting back to that, is the fact that, I see it as a content creation hub. Sidney had this really cool phrase which calls an assembly place for creative minds. Because back in the day, it was obviously an assembly place for cars, and he wanted to obviously keep the homage and keep the pristine of the building and preserve what had actually happened there and built St. Bernard and built a community around that facility. And in a way, that was a bit of my vision too, because my vision in community is how do I build more small businesses around us to help us survive. So taking this content creation hub and not only utilizing towards film and television, but towards gaming, towards more of what we're doing here, podcast production, short form production, broadcast production, tech, music, all under one roof to help obviously support and build up the community around us.
And bringing up the community, you guys have the film industry, the entertainment industry has given so much and invested so much in St. Bernard Parish. How do y'all feel about that?
Well, yeah, the numbers are there, and you could see it. The businesses can experience it, and I want to tell you, a large part of why we're so successful is who we are and what we are in St. Bernard Parish. I can tell you, when we first started, the producers, the writers, the actors would come to St. Bernard. They would look out the window from our offices, and they'd say, "Wow, the proximity to New Orleans, how close we were." And Katie, as you know, after Katrina, we went from 70,000 residents to zero overnight. And we've always looked at it as we grow, and those of us who came back and to try to rebuild St. Bernard, that we had the opportunity. We had a blank canvas, and that we could build it stronger. And this gives us an opportunity. The film industry here in St. Bernard is a new, environmentally clean industry. The ranch has accounted for $1 billion in production since we've started. And my goal is to anchor this new industry down here for generations to come. And we have that opportunity. And what makes it really fun, I've always subscribed to the theory that if you don't trip over your shoestrings, things will be in your path that need to be there. And this is one of them. Jason coming to my office the way we did 7 years ago.
Yes.
And we have such wonderful things down here. And for instance, the Ford plant. Henry Ford in the 20s determined that it made more sense to assemble vehicles outside of Detroit. So he hired the world-famous industrial architect Albert Kahn to design an assembly plant, one of which is built in Old Araby. Well, the same things that attracted Henry Ford to Araby 100 years ago still exist today. Our proximity to New Orleans, the Mississippi River, he had rail access, and wonderful people in this community.
Yes.
And that's why, as Jason was saying, when we was determining, okay, where we're going to go with it, and we're looking to create a hub for creative people to come there and create synergy, is that we came up with the idea that it would be called an assembly place for creative minds. And when you look back and you start thinking the history, I mean, in this place, Henry Ford, his fingerprints, his footprints are in there. He was here. Albert Kahn was here. And in its heyday, they were producing 300 Model Ts a day. And he had the assembly line, changed the geography and economy of the nation, because what he did was when he went in, the Model Ts was selling for about $800. Other vehicles were selling, and what he did, he reduced the price to half, and he increased the wages for employees. He doubled them. So everybody in his plants could afford, the common people could afford the car, and the rest is history. And so we like to think of the inspiration and that it was meant to be for us to be back there, because the creative industries are the future of the world, really. And we're happy to be a part of it. And like I said, my goal is for it to be a big part of St. Bernard. We're already on the map.
Yes.
When I say we're on the map, not just nationally, internationally, the people
Yes.
know who the ranch are. And again, I give a lot of credit, Katie, to you and to the people of St. Bernard, because it's in our genes, it's in our DNA. And when they come here, they love being with us.
Yes.
Yeah, but I want to make one other point, which is the fact that the community welcomed us when we got here.
Yes.
And it's been really wonderful how St. Bernard has appreciated what the film industry has come into play in your backyard. As you said, obviously you're seeing a lot more permits come up.
Yes.
Well, we do want to applaud, obviously, your department and obviously Guy McGinnis and what
Yes.
they have done, and the fire department especially, which has been really, really wonderful, has just basically said, look, what is it that we can do
Right.
for you to help you grow and allow for you to prosper, and what it is you're trying to create. And people really recognize that. The clients do. They say that over and over again when they come back here to film. So.
And mentioning the fire department, also the sheriff's department, just with traffic control,
Absolutely.
the deputies, because, a lot goes in behind the scenes from the film, from the permitting process to putting out a public notice, putting it out there, what's going on. And the community's been very receptive. And if anything, we communicate with everybody. So people are, always call and we're responding. And we just all try to work together as a team for St. Bernard.
It goes a long way.
It
Yes.
does. And Katie, I got to tell you, when they come here, and starting with you and with Guy and with Sheriff Pullman and our other public officials, when they meet the folks who are coming here and have a need to do things as they go along, first thing you do is give them your cell number.
Right.
And say, wow. And so if they need something, and the beauty part about the film industry is that, in all of the folks who are dealing with it, is that they're very competent in what they do, and they just expect things to happen in a timely way.
Right.
And when they come here in a competent way, and they want you to do that, and that's good people to be around. And like I said, they recognize what they have here and how the parish has cooperated and promoted it. And so we have a lot of good people here
Yes.
working together to make this happen.
As I've been told, we're film friendly.
You are?
That's what I've been told. But, all these wonderful things. What has been basically the challenges from the pandemic that you have faced and overcame?
Right. Well, I mean, first and foremost was, the way that we had to find to get back to work was the biggest challenge. When it hit in March, everybody took approximately 6 months off.
Right.
And what was really great is that because of who we became and who the ranch really stood for, and it basically it allowed us to be a part of the conversation on how is it that we can get people back to work, figure out the best procedures, guidance, and protocols to allow for our clients to really obviously service the needs of getting content back on the screen. But it was very challenging in the mere fact that, we didn't have all the information.
Right.
And so once August came around and the IATSE, which is the International Union, and the DGA all came together and said, look, this is going to be the way that we're going to start getting back to work. We were one of the first people that sat on the boards, sat in the think tanks, and really began to figure it out for the state of Louisiana. Okay, this is what we're going to implement, and this is how we're going to actually move forward. And then we obviously had to implement those things at our facility, making sure that our facility was safe, making sure that our staff was safe, and obviously making sure that the surrounding areas would be welcoming to having that activity back again. So the biggest challenge was understanding how that sort of that motion, that train was going to get back on the tracks again and get rolling. And when it did, we haven't stopped, and it's been great. Because if you've noticed, we have some of the highest protocols and procedures of any industry. And I know that Mayor Cantrell, called a press conference at the beginning of the year to applaud us for that by saying, look, these people go well beyond any other industry by making sure that everybody's safe and everybody is obviously can get into work, because the problem that we have is that you can't have any PPE when you're on set. Right. You have an actor who can't put on a mask all the time, and so you have to find ways of the people working around them to make sure that they're safe so that the actor can be safe.
You guys, you did provide a safe surrounding, and I know you work a lot with Maureen Liuza and with the Civic Center, and she was very diligent in getting protocols of how we can start events. What's the proper way? What's the safe way? How do you keep your employees safe? So I think in working with the Ranch Studios and with the Special Events Department, we all really came together to get everything moving again, because at that time tourism people were not traveling. The tourism industry was really hurting. As the film industry, I found we were bouncing back, at least in St. Bernard and in Louisiana. We were really bouncing back compared to other states.
Yeah, and that's another example of how working together with the public officials and all the people in parish government and the people in St. Bernard dealing with the COVID, and we were really on the cutting edge. And the production companies, the people who are down here, partner with us in a legitimate way to make things happen. And again, when they see how we respond, they really and they deal all over the world. And another example is after Hurricane Ida, when we came back, the first thing the movie industry did was ensure that everything was shored up and said, how do we help? Right. And so they knew we were going to be down for a week or two, and they have these gigantic generators. They say, who needs generators? Who needs this? Who needs that? And it's like having an army at our beck and call to work with us. And when you see how St. Bernard responded to Ida, I think we're the glowing example now. We're not only resilient, but we have people down here who have learned to react. I think yesterday we had a crew that went down the bayou to help out, and we know how appreciative those people are, because we were when we were down here, and we were looking around and we didn't see anything, and we saw the mud in the streets. And we know we're fortunate now. We have the protection of the wall, and each time we learn to deal with it a little better. There seems to be more storms coming through, and this is a good partner to have here down in St. Bernard, to be able to chip in and assist. And I want to tell you, they feel a part of it. We've had many. Anywhere from producers, a lot of different disciplines that are involved in the production of film. People just see the actors on the other side of the screen, but there are cameramen, there are people who design the sets, people who build the sets, there are caterers. It's on down the line, and and that's what makes it so fantastic. As we land this industry down here, and we become one of the biggest and the best around. This is a great thing going forward, for the parish, and we enjoy the fact that. Associating with them and again introducing them to our culture. As time goes on, more and more of them are asking, let's find a place to live down here. And that is our goal, not only to create the infrastructure. St. Bernard can accommodate more rooftops, and we're going to see that happen as time goes on.
Yep.
And we want to keep our industry moving forward, definitely. And I know, Jason, in 2025, if you want to talk about the legislation, kind of
sure.
going into that, working together with all of our elected officials.
Yeah, so we obviously run through a tax credit system for the film industry, and our sunset for our tax credit comes up in 2025. And so we will be moving towards extending our sunset and allowing for tax credits to continue in the state of Louisiana, because it's a fantastic investment in the state. There are tens of thousands of jobs every year that the film industry supports, and we put in almost $1 billion worth of spend in the state every year. I mean, the New Orleans just came out with a fantastic stat that I was astonished by, that said that this year alone they're going to have over $750 million in the greater New Orleans area spent in the area. That's a tremendous amount of money. I mean, just think about how much that was. And that's $200 million more than they had the year before. Right. So let's just look at what that expansion will look like, how many more jobs that's going to create. Also, Billy Nungesser, as I believe you all know and love, I cherish him as well. He's such a great supporter of the film industry. He came out with his tourism study, over a year and a half ago, that showed that $2.5 billion can be attributed to the film industry on how many people come to the greater New Orleans area and the state of Louisiana in general. And so just really think about those types of things. Think about the amount of content, the amount of eyeballs that are seen, that are shown directly on television, not only nationally but internationally, that are really understanding more about not only the culture but what happens here, and brings more people in our backyard to spend money. And so that's the goal.
Yeah. And in that regard, with the tax credits, when we first got involved 7 years ago, and I'll be honest, I didn't know a whole lot about the tax credits until the legislature decided they were going to try to pull the rug. Right. And I want to tell you, we immediately went to work to start educating the legislators. I remember Jason said, we're going to Baton Rouge. And we went up there and he said, you're going to speak in Baton Rouge. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, I'm just learning about this. And I recall that I'm listening to the senators speak, and I'm thinking, there's tax credits for drilling companies where they just have maybe a handful of employees all over Louisiana. Right. And I'm thinking that what I had seen right outside my office, so I get up to speak, and the senators question me. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, let me put it this way. I have an office, and before the movie industry came down here, I could look out there and I saw grass growing. And I said, for the past 7 months, I look out my window and I see 800 people working out there. And I said, we're just one community where we have this. And so we left there, and what we came up with, Jason has been heavily involved with Louisiana associations that do this, is to educate. We take we play a big part in putting together the statistics and numbers. As a matter of fact, one of the things we did with the ranch, we went about where we have little cards to record the spending. We found out, we went next door to the Home Depot, and I think Deepwater Horizon spent $1.5 million there.
You're right. May have been more than that.
May have been more than that. And so we go in, and Jason talks to the managers, and man, am I glad to see you. And Jason said, well, we just wanted to be able to document the spending here. He says, well, not only will you document it, you can tell your customers we're going to give a discount. Yep. And then as we went down the line, so as we start putting together numbers, we could show what this industry brings to Louisiana. We've so long relied upon oil and other industries, and we've coexisted with industries down here that have been helpful to people to have jobs, but on the other hand, they pollute. And here we have an industry that it's creative, and we're really doing things. And when I say creative, it isn't just what you see on screen. There are people who are involved in the technical aspects, interactive sports, esports, and a lot of the technical things involve things that go down even in medicine, where they do different types of surgery. And it's really it's fantastic to have that type of thing, and to see, and we see it developing around us here in St. Bernard.
The fastest growing educational platform in the United States is digital media. Okay? And so if you think about that and everything that we just discussed about how content's exploding, what Sidney just mentioned about how the future is really just wide open for what's going to be happening here, it's only going to get bigger, and it is only going to be more prevalent if we can continue the program moving forward in the state of Louisiana, because we've built such a strong base. We were one of the first states to offer this, and therefore we started luring so many talented folks to the state of Louisiana that we have such a wonderful crew built up here and a wonderful team and community of filmmakers here that are not only storytellers within the film and television, but they also go outside of there and start careers in other areas that all associated or stem from what we have. And so, in fact, you were just talking about esports. They just announced this morning, I don't know if you heard about this, Sidney, UNO is starting their own esports program. And it's not only going to be its own program where they're going to be educating, they're going to start their own tournaments. They're going to start competing with other colleges.
Wow.
And so you're starting to see more and more of that. LSU is starting the virtual production program at LSU, which is something that we're working on and we see as the future of what we're doing at the ranch, which is bringing more digital assets inside of our space so that we can create more opportunities not only for jobs, but for our clients to be able to want to continue working in an environment where they know that they're going to get the most up-to-date technology and the best way of using those skills and those crafts to be able to tell their story. So it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
And to mention, the local tax incentive that St. Bernard Parish offers, that the Film Incentive Board oversees. I mean, we see the true revenue. We see the spend. In 2019, before the pandemic, we were over $3 million in spend, and I'm excited to see at the end of the year what those numbers are going to be, because I know they're just going to be way up higher than what they were, because the way our permits are looking right now, and we still have several months, to the end of the year. It's a really exciting time.
Yeah,
and a lot happening. Yes,
absolutely.
And the good thing about that, Katie, is also it keeps a history. But I remember when, as we were getting started, again, it goes to the cooperation we had. We knew that there was a film credit such as we have here in Jefferson. We started talking about it and said, well, wait a minute, let's go ahead and make some calls. I think the first call we made was to Wanda Alicon.
Yes.
And Wanda just took the ball and ran with it. And before you know it. Matter of fact, in one of the big functions in Baton Rouge recently, we went up there were 10 major sponsors. It was the ranch, it was St. Bernard Parish, and someone else from down here. And so we've really made our presence known. And again, it goes back to we just have a venue that's so wonderful and they're so receptive to. Speaking of esports, we had the largest esports company in the world. I go over to the Fort plant, these guys are climbing all over the roof and saying, I can vision this and I can vision that. We were at one of the, I think it was the Louisiana Economic Development, and they had one person speaking to show you how attractive living in the New Orleans area is. 25 years ago, he said he took his family to L.A. He was a geek, and he was into designing these programs for games, kids' games, and that developed over the year, and he had a part of the company. They sold the company, and he just said, as soon as I was able to, I came back to the place I wanted to be. And he said, and by the way, there's only about 15 of the people in the world who really have the knowledge that I have through the School of Hard Knocks, and we need to start teaching other people to do it. And he said, I can go down to one of the local bars in New Orleans, and 10 of those people are back here because they're in the same position because this is where they want to be. Right. And so we've worked with Nunez College, Del Cado, the local high schools, and encouraging and working with them to set up programs where we can teach people how to do those type of things.
Yep. It's the future.
And also, you assisted us with the permitting process, because when I when I came into this position, when Guy called me that morning, and then you called me, and then I had about 5 scout managers call me. It was we started off running, and you guys were very helpful, helping Miss Wanda, Ronnie, Alonzo, and I create a whole permitting process for the film industry, which has been great with that, and on top of the local incentives. So I think the entertainment industry it's been wonderful to St. Bernard. And so, a few fun questions. What was your favorite production to work with?
To work with? Mine was probably Deepwater Horizon, because first of all, it was probably the largest, I think it's either the number 1 or the number 2 largest film that has ever come to the state of Louisiana. So it was a big challenge.
So it was, okay.
It was our first one, and it was from a producer who has now become really good friends with me and Sidney, Todd Lewis, who's come back now twice to do 2 other shows. And so it was just an enjoyable experience. I like getting into, I like to say getting my hands dirty, if you will. And that was really a good challenge for us. And it was wonderful to have a nice little Kickstarter for us to kick off the 7 years that we've had so far, and obviously looking into the future. So
Well, mine was Don Quixote, but before I tell you about that, getting back to Deepwater Horizon, it's Mark Wahlberg, right?
Yep, Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, funny story, during the production, I'm getting into the elevator at my building, and I see this gentleman who looked like he had just been in a wreck. And I'm thinking, boy, I'm picking up a new PI case here. As we go up the elevator, it was Mark Wahlberg. Yeah, it was really to see the scope of that movie here in St. Bernard and the rig in the lot. It was really exciting. Don Quixote was a movie that we helped co-produce. Actually, I was an honorary.
You were a producer on
producer,
that, Sidney? You were
okay.
an executive producer, yeah.
Yeah.
We produced that with Trey Burvant from Second Line, who is one of our really great partners obviously at the stages here.
And so Tim Blake Nelson, who's a fantastic actor, you might know him from Oh Brother, Wart Thou. He was one who was saying, "You're in the jailhouse now." And also, while he was down filming, he stayed down at the bungalow on my property, and they did a lot of filming down there. And first of all, it was absolutely intriguing to watch him with the soliloquies, and he's just a fantastic actor. And while he was there, he was practicing for his next movie. I didn't know what he was doing. He had a pistol that he kept twirling around and putting it in his holster. And then one day he says, "I'd like to ride your horses." Well, come to find out, his next movie was going to be a Coen Brothers Western comedy. And the Buster Scruggs.
Yeah, Buster Scruggs.
Yeah,
the Ballad of Buster Scruggs, which was nominated for an Oscar, by the way.
Yeah, and so there he is doing all of this, but he stayed down there, and that was intriguing because his son came down. He called me one day. I don't know if I told you that, Jason. And he says, and I'm thinking, what's going on here? He said, "I need to talk to you." And so when I went down there, he said, "I got a big favor to ask you." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Well, I fell in love with one of your cats," because we have cats, dogs, all these different animals. And I said, "Oh, my goodness, what's coming here?" And he said, "We'd like to adopt it." And I'm thinking Roberta, my partner wife, there was no way she was going to give up any of her animals because they're like children to us. And I said, "Listen, I'll take you down to the local SPCA." But it's really fun. And that one was one because we were hands-on, and we were out there in the woods down by Crevasse 22 River House watching them film that movie. But all of them are exciting, all of the people who are here. And I think another good thing about St. Bernard is from the producers to actors, they move around. Nobody gives them any trouble. There's all kinds of interesting stories. Arnold Schwarzenegger was here for Terminator Genesis, and he dropped into the Radio Shack one day and spent $15,000 in 15 minutes just as presents for his crew. And but we've had a lot of people in the coffee shops, the restaurants. People see all of these people mingling around, and but they're all exciting in their own way. The movies that have been here.
Was Sidney in Don Quixote?
I don't think you were.
Are you going to
Don
be?
Quixote.
No, the closest I ever came was maybe holding up lights and bringing water to the crew. But you never know; you may be discovered one day.
No, you were. You were in the newspaper. Remember, we had the newspaper clipping that was on the.
I haven't progressed beyond that, though. But I tell you, the people in my office, Katie, and I know you know all of them, is a lot of times we'll accommodate the folks if they need something done, and all of the girls are saying, "I'll go down and do it," and they're putting on their lipstick and so forth. And they do a lot of casting actually at the office there,
they certainly do.
and people come in, and that's another thing that people have fun with, and they constantly have a market for that.
I see a part for Sidney in his future. He's going to have a part somewhere.
I mean, I was excited. I got to see Kevin Costner from a distance. I was like, oh, I was so excited.
Yeah.
And who is probably, in your opinion, the most famous person you've come?
The most famous person that has come to the ranch is Sean Penn. Sean Penn is just this massive superstar. And so to me, that is the biggest, most famous person that's ever come to the ranch. People may say Bryan Cranston, who's really kind of obviously got some really big air under him right now. But to me, he's probably number one. You had Kristen Stewart come there and did Underwater. You had Bill and Ted. Obviously, you had Keanu Reeves. He was pretty huge as well. But to me, Sean Penn to me is probably the biggest that has come to the facility. Which, by the way, Keanu Reeves is probably the nicest man you will ever meet on this planet. Like, I don't know if anybody read all the articles he did, but anytime he was traveling to a location where they had to film it, he was constantly stopping and telling people hello and hugging people, taking pictures. That is so wonderful to see in in the movie industry. We have so many people that are obviously kind of closed off. He was just wonderful. Sorry, I wanted to say that.
No.
Well, Jason is much better at rating the actors than I am, and I'll take his word as to who is the most famous. I think we had Helen Mirren.
Mirren. She wasn't here filming, but she came and visited.
Right.
Cool.
Helen Mirren and Kayla Hackford had heard about us. Actually, they came here through a mutual friend.
They did.
And we had lunch with them at the Palms. They spent a few hours. And so I consider her, because she was the queen, wasn't she, in the movie?
Yes.
And he was the producer. What was his famous
Producer-director.
Producer-director. What's the famous movie that he did a bunch of them. But anyway, they came down and in sitting and talking to them, they were well familiar with St. Bernard. New Orleans, and we introduced them to St. Bernard, and they talked about how at some point in time they would like to land here. We also, the dirt, one of the
Motley Crue biopic.
The Motley Crue, yeah. Katie, you'd appreciate this. You knew my son Tony.
Yes.
And he years ago, matter of fact, his last girlfriend, as you know, he was killed in an automobile accident. His last girlfriend was from L.A., and I got to know her well. And she was down here. She actually married one of the. Do you remember which one it was?
Nikki Sixx.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and she married him, and so she was down here when they were filming the movie. And so, like I said, it's a. I always believe that things around you kind of were meant to be, and when you see things like that, it's very touching. But we've had a whole lot of the actors down here, and and there's a lot more to come.
Yep, sure is.
Well, anything else you guys want to discuss?
Man, I'm sure there are 1,000 things we can discuss. Just knowing that, again, St. Bernard has been so wonderful to allowing me to take this vision that I sent to Sidney and said, I want to build this. And Sidney said, we're doing it.
We welcomed him to Baton Rouge, man.
He has been a wonderful asset and obviously a big motivator to really find ways of building what it is that we, started 7 years ago. And so I just want to applaud the community for allowing, obviously, this sort of ruckus that's in your backyard. We come in, as Sidney mentioned, we're kind of like the military. We're really organized, but we're also really big and daunting when you see us coming down the street. It's like, what are all these trucks doing? Where are all these tents being erected? But we leave things the way we found them, if not better. And, we really are very regimented to making sure that we're getting our goals set every single day and obviously putting stuff back into the community. That's what the film industry is all about. And I'm hoping that we're showcasing that as much as we can, because we only want to build and we only want to continue here in this parish and really, like I said, build it up to the degree that me and Sidney see as the big pinnacle of the future here, big beacon. Yeah.
Yeah, and I echo that, and I know Jason always says that he started off wanting to be an actor, and I'm sorry that it didn't happen for you, but actually I'm very happy because what Jason had, it wasn't just the actor, and I note this with a lot of the folks in the movie industry, is they have such a passion, and if they get in there and stick with it, maybe they're not an actor, but they become something else, and Jason's, he understands the whole picture. And what the ranch has become, in the beginning it was, we actually created a market for our own real estate here in St. Bernard, but we didn't stop there. We constantly expand. We have a team of people now who can service all of the needs of the film industry, and starting with the leadership of Jason, and we get involved in the community, and all of that is really important for the success as we go forward. And so Jason, we're glad you're here, and like I said, we didn't know when we started our journey 7 years ago that we'd be sitting here talking about this at this point in time. But it's really a beautiful thing for St. Bernard. We're very happy. I'm very happy to participate in it. I guess if you wanted to define my role at the ranch, is that I'm an ambassador for St. Bernard, and I enjoy that. So we're looking forward to a real bright future down here.
Absolutely.
And we're so thankful to have the both of you. And Jason, thank you so much, because I know I call you a lot to ask you questions, to get your guidance, and you're always there and so supportive and, helping us. And, my department, Samantha Meyer, and even Bill Highland, we all work together to help the film industry, including Ms. Donna Lopez up in administration, because there's so many things going on behind the paperwork and the proper, the procedure that needs to be done. So we thank you guys so much. I look forward to see what the future has in store for us, and I look forward to that legislation extending, beyond, because I think we can go further than that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us.
All right.
Today.
Thank you,
Katie.
Thank you, and thank you to the Chamber of Commerce and Elizabeth and Art. Thank you.
if you want to find out more information, first of all, about how to get into the film industry, I had started a podcast almost 2 years ago called On the Neutral Ground. And what it is, there's about 20 episodes where it's, how do you become an actor? And we literally take in a casting director, we take in actors in the industry, and they literally talk about how it is that you can actually become an actor from day one. I don't know or have any experience becoming an actor, and here's how it is that you can become one. How do I get hired as an actor? Here's a casting director. We talk the entire step of the process. Same thing, carpenter, cameraman. I bring all these people and we interviewed them so that now it gives you some resources and some opportunities to be able to figure out how to get into the industry, because we get a lot of those calls. And then secondly, if you're ever interested in wanting to know what's going on in the industry, go follow our Facebook page or you can go to wearetheranch.com and you can go follow any of our platform links, our social media links. But every week I usually give a PSA about what's happening in and around the state and anything that's going on, obviously, in our backyard. And it seems to be pretty resourceful. I get a lot of comments about it, and I hope to continue doing that on a regular basis.
And I enjoy watching it. It's very educational.
Thank you.
So I look forward to seeing those PSAs on a weekly basis.
Appreciate it.